Singapore Stories with Eugene Loh.
Yeah, the city librarian snaps pictures of all that booze.
It's close to insanity sometimes, but then I think definitely that kind of energy for the kind of films or music that I like to approach definitely lends itself that kind of spirit and energy.
Yeah, I think energetic is another way of saying that sometimes we get into creative fights, but I think we think of it as something very positive for the whole process.
Constructive fights.
Yeah, constructive fights, yeah.
A few times before, I say, and I haven't got the time at all.
Mark Chua and Lam Lee Shuen are a Singaporean film and music-making duo who have written and directed feature and short films under their independent production company Emoumie and music releases under the band's moniker of R or A-R-E. This particular track, The Funicular, is actually taken from the film music for one of their movies, their debut feature actually, docu-fiction feature Cannonball. It was screened at the 29th Singapore International Film Festival in 2018 and the 10th Queen's World Film Festival in 2020.
And the earless man, he grabbed my...
When I was younger, my dad basically, even up to now, actually, he has big collections of LD tapes, VCD, DVD, Blu-ray, and so I grew up watching all sorts of films, like from Mel Brooks with Spaceballs, Young Frankenstein, Tora Tora Tora, Snake and Eagle's Shadow, stuff like that. So definitely, I think movies have always been a part of my life because of that.
So Mark, your dad, proactively played these movies for you, or you just happened to be watching when he was watching?
Yeah, I think it was a kind of mixed bag of both, where he would be playing it, and then he would sit me in front of it, and so I would end up being kind of forced to watch a lot of these movies.
I see. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they look like mostly action, war movies, and somehow Mel Brooks is in there as well.
Right.
Is that...
I think that's quite a lot of his taste as well. And yeah, they would also be forced to, of course, play like Disney cartoons for my sister as well. So it was like a kind of curious mix of these different films.
Okay, so he did include some children's programming as well.
Yeah.
Okay, what about for you, Lee Shuen? What are your earliest influences of, say, this kind of thing as well, like films and filmmaking?
I think for me, it's quite interesting because I think I actually got into music before I was really interested in cinema as well. But now that I think of it, I think actually music and cinema, there's so much interplay and there's so much intersections there that, when I was growing up, I guess my dad also listened to a lot of the Carpenters actually. So in the car when listening on the radio, they always play the same few songs, and somehow those songs also got stuck in my head. And I guess from there, that also influenced me to start making my own music. And then in the process of making music, I think also because there's a lot of visual elements to music as well. So, when I started watching more films, especially after I met Mark, so we started to explore more kind of what the intersection between music and cinema really could be. So I think that's where from music it really transitioned into cinema, and also how I see the both of them as very much interlinked.
Yes, music and cinema do have lots of very natural, spontaneous synergies. And so, Li Xuan, your early years, earliest influences were more of music, and Mark, your earliest influences were more of films and movies.
Yes, but I think that's also why it's kind of interesting that we started working together, because it's a combination of very complementary but also a very diverse kind of interests and influences.
How did you meet?
Right. So actually when we met, Mark had been making some short films, and he was also working with this documentary film company that was based in Boston and Singapore.
Persistent Productions.
Yeah. So I was doing more of, focused more on music at that time. Yeah, so we met actually through music because Mark also he also plays music. Yeah, he's also a musician. So we formed an art rock band together called ARE. Yeah, so that's the early beginnings of several years ago. Yeah, so we released some albums which were mostly recorded in our home studio on a cassette 4-track machine. And we also played shows. We performed in Japan, Australia, Iceland, and also Singapore. Yeah, so that's how we met. And then after we met, I think...
Yeah, then she started to work on the documentary.
Yeah,
shoots as
exactly.
well.
I started to really get into film as well because, when we are spending so much time together and, even when we're collaborating on music together, then we'll be talking about our influences and what drives us, our interests, our passions. So I think it's very natural that we started to kind of merge some of the things that we were both interested in.
So we
and
just started making films together.
Yeah, started making films
and then
together.
we formed a film production company.
Yeah, so that's the start of our film production company, Emoumie. And yeah, I think it really took off from there because, when there's that kind of energy with two people, I think it bounces off each other really well.
And it just takes off.
Yeah, it just takes off from there, yeah. And I think we really enjoyed that process as well.
And before, is it correct to say that both of you, Li Shuen and Mark, you had pursued your creative passions right from the onset?
Yeah,
You didn't do
yes, that's
any
correct.
other. Oh, okay. You didn't become a corporate animal.
Maybe it's not possible for us to have.
Yeah, I think so.
We like to think so.
That's wonderful. You didn't waste any time. That's great.
Interest as he started rambling day for
Singaporean film and music making duo Mark Chua and Lam Li Shuen have written and directed feature and short films under their independent production company Emoumie, that's Emoumie, and music releases under the band's moniker of ARE or R. Fantastic synergies there, as we were talking about, as their music also features in their films. This one's The Funicular from the soundtrack of Cannonball, which was their first, their debut docu-fiction feature.
about the ways of impossible time. Up to the point of view, there's no sense of right. Good at going about the ways of impossible time. Up to the point of view, there's no me or you. Good at going about the ways of impossible time.
And our conversation continues after a check on traffic. I'm Eugene Loh for Singapore Stories on CNA 93.8. Traffic-wise, we have roadworks AYE towards the MCE after Jurong Town Hall exit. Avoid lane 2.
Singapore Stories with Eugene Loh.
A bit over the edge and sometimes feeling like going insane, and then that drives some of the things that we...
Especially with some of the risk taking, I think then it helps to be able to
commit to something without calculating too
holding
much.
too quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow, races went places, one up to them all, then went to Memphis, understood about it, ran in a circle and down.
And unlike most of us, working from home as a couple isn't unfamiliar to them. Mark Chua and Lam Li Shuen are a Singaporean film and music-making duo who have been writing and directing feature and short films under their independent production company Emoumie, and music releases under the band moniker of R or ARE. This track is called The Sunbathing Dog, which is from their movie Cannonball. Their most recent film was a narrative feature, Revolution Laundrette, which was filmed in Japan. It premiered at the 30th Singapore International Film Festival.
We try to see it is to kind of set out the objective of what we were trying to get at with each project. So with a film, it might take certain risks, but then we set out the objective that, okay, we're going to try to push that, So whatever arguments or disagreements that might occur, we can at least kind of remember what we're trying to do.
Yeah, like keep our minds on the objective. And I think another thing that really helps is that we trust in each other a lot. Yeah, so I think that trust is always it's kind of above everything. Like it's a kind of like untouchable kind of trust, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever energy that results, whether it's positive or negative, eventually it gets channeled into something creative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could work. Yeah. Very good. Let's talk about your films. I mean, Li Shuen, you started making documentaries and stuff. What would you say was your first, big project together?
At the very beginning, I think we were doing like shoots for the documentary film company that Mark was working for. But after that, we started to do several short films. But I think the first biggest project probably was our debut feature film, Cannonball. So it's a conceptual docu-fiction feature film that we shot during the Australia tour of our band R. Yeah, so definitely one of those examples of how we try to merge like our music and our film. So the film was also very much inspired by Dadaist and Surrealist works and also some of the experimental films in the 60s.
So because there was one half of an album film release, kind of like the concept was to create the Cannonball music album based on the imagined film to be made. But then to make also a film based on the music of the album.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a wild little endeavor. And we shot this film to 5 cities in Australia over 2 weeks together with Australian alternative underground musicians like Chua Ahmad, Tracy Chen, bands from Hello Square Recordings, Feet Teeth.
Yeah, and the fact that I think we shot it outside of Singapore was also something very special, especially for me as like that being like kind of our first big project together.
And they gave me a video camera and they said, film whatever you want.
About Cannonball, quite recently, right? 2018. What is the film about? Or is there no about? It's just, it's unfathomable.
Actually, the narrative of the film follows these two characters, Frank and Lily, who are partners by chance, by circumstance. So the film follows their wild journey in search of this mystical character known as the sunbathing dog. So along the way, they encounter really weird, oddball characters. They encounter strange places and new sounds. But I guess what the film is about is kind of the process of them searching, trying to figure out. The journey to find the sunbathing dog. And will they ever find it, or they won't find it, or what does it mean by the end, and that kind of thing.
And eventually they realize it's just something under their noses.
I think you could say that, yeah.
and just last year, you had this another film, very fast, right? Within a year. In fact, how fast from Cannonball to Revolution Laundrette?
Actually, I think when we got the opportunity to screen Cannonball at the Singapore International Film Festival in 2018, right after the festival, or was it before the festival, we had been in Japan to shoot the
before the festival.
Revolution Laundrette.
Yeah, and also we had been going on some shoots before that as well. For I think the total process took about 2 years maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so this Revolution Laundrette, it has this Japanese name.
Shinen no merry-go-round. So it's a merry-go-round of convictions.
Cool. And what, did you shoot it in Japan?
Yes, it was shot mainly in Tokyo. Yep. So we made it while traveling back and forth between Singapore and Japan.
Was that your first time in Japan?
Actually, no. I think we had gone to Japan several times before that, and one of the trips was also for, actually it was for a music tour of our band. Yeah, and I think on some other trips, I think Mark also had a chance to engage with some of the artists and the underground. Collaborate with them. Yeah, and actually it was through those prior trips that we came into contact and we encountered some of the people and the spaces that eventually ended up in the film itself.
Yeah.
And that clip taken from the trailer for Revolution Laundrette. From film and music making duo Mark Chua and Lam Li Shuen. And our conversation continues after the news, so in about 5 minutes' time. I'm Eugene Loh for Singapore Stories on CNA 93.8.
Singapore Stories with Eugene Loh.
I think both films we're still trying to
Get them out to
get them out,
festival,
and explore what options there are for
and later in the
other
year
screenings.
as well, with Cannonball, it'll be at Buenos Aires.
Yeah, exactly.
And for Revolution Laundrette, also at
a festival in
Mammoth Lake.
Yeah, in
Mammoth
the
Lake
US.
Film Festival. But we're really hoping to kind of get maybe Cannonball first and get them onto online platforms.
Yeah, we're definitely looking into that, I think. Like how we can make the film more publicly
Accessible.
viewable. Yeah, definitely.
And they gave me a video camera and they said, film whatever you want.
Their narrative feature Revolution Laundrette in 2019 premiered at the 30th Singapore International Film Festival and will screen at the Bienal de la Imagen en Movimiento in Buenos Aires, Argentina later this year in late 2020. And they make music too, and often, I think so far, I think they exclusively score their films so far. They've got 2 films, and this is music taken from their debut feature. It's a docu-feature called Cannonball. Mark Chua and Lam Li Shuen, a Singaporean film and music-making duo who have written and directed feature and short films under their independent production company Emoumie and music under the band moniker of AREOR.
Quite alternative films as well. So to kind of get them out there and also hopefully lead to more doors with new projects from that run. Hopefully.
Both of you scored the soundtrack, presumably, or
yes.
score the music to all your films, right? It only makes sense, right?
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah. I mean, we really enjoy the process of doing that also.
It's like because we really love John Carpenter as well. So
yeah, like we really admire those filmmakers that they that they did the film and they did a lot of the aspects of the film, but you're so surprised to find out that they also composed the soundtrack, and that's something that's inspiring for us, I think.
Let's talk about why filmmaking and cinema means so much to you.
Definitely for us, like generally speaking, we really feel that it's a medium that kind of allows this experience that opens communication between people, through their similarities, their differences, their points of view. It's just an activity that spans different walks of life, right? And putting it together, as you were saying, it involves so many different people, skills, and different sectors even, and ultimately at the end of the day on the screen, it's just this experience that they can be shared, with potentially people very different from oneself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny to think. I mean, we always think how like even your worst enemy also has a favorite movie or a favorite show.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing that we find really special about filmmaking also is I think the physicality of filmmaking. So we see it as a very active process, something that's physical. It's social, but it's also very much spiritual and very, very personal, definitely. So all these different elements coming together. So from beginning to end, how the act of making a film involves, you bring people together, you bring the equipment out, you work with or you challenge nature and circumstance.
All just to realize an idea.
Yeah,
So
all
it's
for,
quite,
so, things might go wrong. Maybe some things might not be perfect, but I think we feel that with some creativity and some will, so something like an idea can be achieved together.
yeah, and it's quite a nice like human spirit to be involved with.
Yes, and as an art form, it really, I think it utilizes almost the entire palette, right? I mean, like visuals,
Yeah,
moving
exactly.
visuals, music, sound
Yeah,
effects,
just pulls
editing.
together from so many, exactly.
Yeah.
Different like kind of departments, so many different skills and everything. Yeah.
What Lisha, you mentioned something about it's funny to think about how what your worst enemy has a favorite movie or show. What do you mean by that?
Maybe sometimes when I'm thinking of I have a personal favorite show or something, but you don't often think about the possibility that all the other people that may like the same show as you, and sometimes people that maybe they have the same preferences or they have the same interests and passions, but on another level they can be very, very different people. They could actually hate each other in real life. Yeah, so I think that's something that we feel
Or even in the past. I mean, it's happened also where I would think that I really disagree with someone, and then we find out that wait, we love the same movie, and
it's
that
like, it's so
started
crazy
a
to think of that.
conversation, and we kind of reconciled after that. So,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
see.
Yeah, the power of
Cinema.
having this medium to communicate, yeah, I think that's something that's really special to us.
It can strike the same chord in very different people, and and I suppose it says something about the fundamentality of the human spirit as well, right? Yeah,
Yes,
there's so many
definitely,
facets
yeah.
to a person. It's so complex because a movie is very complex too, right? You can't really just pigeonhole a movie as something. It is a whole person. It's a whole.
Yeah, and that human spirit that you mentioned, I think, so that's something that we feel is very close to where the stories in films come from. Also, where our desire to see and to share these stories come from also.
What else do you love about filmmaking? And
what I really love about it is just kind of getting to be involved in this kind of project or endeavor, and kind of getting to find our way of expressing, but also our way of doing it, right? So when we try to approach it, we try our best to lean towards a cross-disciplinarity and openness. So, because for us, definitely music, whether it's music, performance art, film, they kind of go hand in hand, and the connections people we meet through different projects, we've gone to make other projects with them, and with both film and music, I think opportunities have come up so often from the intersection of the multiple disciplines.
Yeah, and so like we were talking about earlier, I think the intersection is something that we really love and something that we really value a lot in our filmmaking. Yeah, and I mean, as we were saying before, for Cannonball, how film and music really come together in like a way that is very, very unique and very special to us. So yeah, so I think that cross-disciplinarity of film, music, and art, it allows the openness of possibilities, and you feel like it expands.
But maybe it's also that it's kind of like it challenges us as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it also challenges us.
I think we all always have that need, all of us, in different ways, how we want to be challenged. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it can be quite challenging, but that's kind of I don't know, fun.
Yeah.
yeah, it's part of it. Like how you go when you go on a vacation. Parts of it is really quite terrible. Right? You can run into all sorts of problems, but then
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it would be fun anyway. It's an adventure, right? What is your filmmaking process like?
I think another aspect of our filmmaking process would definitely be, or something that we feel is quite important to us, is also kind of utilizing the tools at hand, to put out the films that we feel for. Because I think filmmaking, there's an idea that it's a bit, it could be a little bit highbrow to some degree.
Or at least it has some kind of barriers or maybe things that make it a little bit out of reach, at least in the idea.
A little lofty.
Yeah, a little bit lofty, yeah.
So for us, it's a very important also to remember that, hey, in today's age, with the technology available, if you can be resourceful and following that up with action, that can really go such a long way to put out some films, and improve one's craft along the way as well.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of seizing the tools that we have to create things that we believe in.
And I guess part of that is just committing and developing, or kind of like risking failure also, because at the moment we're kind of working with this approach, tailoring or updating along the way as well, where, the risk of there is always a risk of failure, but we think of it more as the risk being part of that process, so that kind of fits well for us. And I think committing the process of developing, outside of the comfort zone and pacing the development.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
balancing it all out.
Yeah, and at the same time, there's also so much to trying to get into making films. Putting out there, getting to know the various workings of making films. So, I mean, whether it's for TV, for cinema, commercial work. So it can be quite daunting right at the start, knowing whether your job industry and it's like enabling you to figure out the right stuff you need to know to get where you're hoping to get to, or whether also the opportunities that you want are in the pipeline.
Yeah, so that's why we really try to
I think
do what we can.
Yeah, do what we can, and also try to be very comfortable with the idea of taking big leaps of faith, having some conviction, I think, in the risk that we're taking. Yeah, I mean, that also...
With alternative films.
Yeah, exactly, with alternative films. I mean, this is what we like to think of when we are making films, yeah. So, and I think another aspect also is kind of looking at how the unorthodox nature of our films could be frustrating for some people. But we also feel that nowadays, I think very clear, fast successes, they're becoming more visible, with more connectivity today. So that's just easier digestion, whether for critics or for consumers. So it can create a kind of status quo about what's worth more, what's worth less. Yeah, so we feel sometimes for us, I think that can be a bit distracting to trying to develop one's craft outside of just one dimension of value.
The first two features have been screened at Singapore International Film Festival as well as international film festivals, Revolution Laundrette from 2019 and their docu-fiction feature Cannonball in 2018. Mark Chua and Lam Li Shuen are a Singaporean film and music-making duo, writing and directing feature and short films under their independent production company Emoumie, and releasing music under the band moniker of ARE or R. Our conversation continues after a check on traffic. I'm Eugene Loh for Singapore Stories on CNA 93.8. A vehicle is stalled. This is on the KPE towards the TPE before Halus Link exit.
Singapore Stories with Eugene Loh.
Yeah, the city librarian snaps pictures of all that moves.
Ultimately, cinema is just, for us, it's just like life and everyday experience. So, okay, it doesn't all have to fit in one framework, image of success. We're optimistic and okay with some risks, and as we develop the craft and our life with it,
They have written and directed feature and short films under their independent production company Emoumie. Two of their features, Revolution Laundrette 2019 and Cannonball from 2018, have been screened at the Singapore International Film Festival as well as overseas film festivals. Today's Singapore story belongs to Singaporean film and music making duo Mark Chua and Lam Li Shuen.
For us and the last two feature films that we made, I think we see it as kind of it involves like everyone from all the different crafts as well. So it's really just this. I think it's very nice. Like you can have that personal side to it, but then that bridges over with everyone else's personal side.
Yeah,
of it.
exactly. Yeah, and I think there's always going to be a side of it that is surprising. So something that surprises you, when you watch the film, or something that you didn't anticipate before.
Or even just the logistics of making the film.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's
yeah.
always going to surprise someone.
Whether it's a good
us
surprise or a bad surprise, I think it's always something that's kind of exciting, I think, about making films.
And before this whole COVID thing became a thing, what were you working on, and what were your projects, and what was life like for you?
Yeah, so before the virus, there were some potential jobs. I mean, because we try to also we try our best to keep it sustainable. So there are some potential jobs, there were talks to do. So it's just videos that we could, help shoot to earn some money. And definitely, I think those are cancelled. But and other than that, we were kind of working on scripts.
Yeah, we're working on new films. Yeah.
So I think that is an aspect of things that didn't get didn't get cancelled.
Yeah.
So we try to spend our time now at home developing those.
Yeah, developing, writing, and conceptualizing. I think all these are things that it still continue.
Luckily.
Yeah, luckily. Yeah. I mean, we're also using the time to kind of think about how film can be something that can help in these times also, not just as an informational tool, but also as a medium for stories that can lift our spirits, give us a bit of a respite from kind of the troubles of the day.
I suppose given the nature of your profession and what you do, right, you both already spend a lot of time together, right? So is it very different this past week for you from your normal? How have you been managing, this lockdown partial?
One difference that we're starting to feel is that in the past, when we get a little bit stressed out by all the work at home, like writing scripts, developing them, I think we could just kind of take a break and go out and, eat something nice or take a walk.
Yeah, take a walk, yeah.
Now I think, relegated to
limited
playing
in
games
that way.
at home.
Trying to find our own worlds within our house. Yeah, but I think also in a way it's also giving us the chance also to think and to reflect more, I think.
Right.
Yeah. And some of the the anxieties I've been feeling from the general climate or from other people, I think these are things that we really want to use the time to take in, think about it, maybe think about what we can do with film in terms of kind of tackling that or managing that.
And this time is particularly bad for the creative industry and freelancers and artists and all that, right? Have you been impacted? Have your friends been impacted?
Yeah, I think definitely when we kind of just get on the social media and then you can see that yes, like a lot of people have been impacted, theater practitioners, everyone in the film industry.
Yeah.
And,
I think most
musicians.
people in the arts sector probably would have to suffer, whether it's loss of income or, having performances, shoots cancelled. Yeah,
but
so
it's quite interesting also.
Yeah.
There has been kind of initiatives where some artists or industry folk have come together and tried to pull together and help,
resources to help
whoever is really affected worse by it, and that's been kind of heartening as well. That I think we'll be all right. definitely in need of help. But then at the same time, I think it's very happening to see that everyone is just kind of coming together to try to make it all better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For everyone.
And now is probably the worst time to make plans. But what are your hopes then, once this thing, blows over?
Right. So actually, currently we are working on some new films. So one of them is a short film that's set in the late 90s in Singapore. And it's about a family that's on vacation. So I think what we are trying to reflect on with this film is the themes of uncertainty about what's to come, the unknown, where everything is going. Yeah, so that's something that we are working on currently.
Yeah, we're really hoping you can go out and shoot it.
Yeah.
Maybe sometime this year if it's possible.
Yeah, we're hoping for the best. Yeah, and also we are also working on another film, a new feature film, which is kind of a adventure film set in around the island of Temasek in the 12th century in Singapore. Yeah, so that's something that we are also planning and developing right now.
Mark Chua and Lam Lee Shuen, a Singaporean film and music-making duo who have written and directed feature and short films under their independent production company of Emoumie and music under the band moniker of AREOR. Their two most recent films, Revolution Laundrette in 2019 and Cannonball in 2018, have been screened at local and international film festivals. And if you know someone with a story to share, or if you have a story to share with me, send me the details. Email eugene@mediacorp.com.sg. I'm Eugene Loh, Singapore Stories, CNA 93.8.
Of impossible time, up to the point of view, there's no sense of right, good at going about the ways of impossible time, up to the point of view, there's no me or